Greetings. I am Archangel Michael. On occasion, we have chosen to speak with you with regard to information pertinent to your well-being or your progression upon your ascension pathway. Oftentimes, this has coincided with your need for learning and understanding of that which is beyond you, of that which is unusual to your consciousness, which extends the range and realm of your thinking. Such interventions are rare. We do not choose to frequently acquaint you whilst upon your earthbound journeys with that learning which is for your own discovery. It is important for each and every individual upon their ascension pathway that they come across aspects of their development when they are able and willing to cope with the implication and repercussion of what it is they now understand. But there are moments on which it is apposite for beings of the etheric to speak with you so that you may learn at a greater depth, that you may extend your awareness to matters which present from certain perspectives not only challenges but perhaps threats to your well-being, to your place in the world you have chosen. This is one such occasion. Seldom before have I found it necessary to offer our input in this manner. However, in your linear terms, at this moment, there is guidance necessary for you all with regard to your tenure upon Gaia. This applies not only to those of you who are in the process of transcending to the ascended planet, but also those of you who will remain on the unascended planet. The former still oft retain the vestiges of that state of being they occupied before they began their brief journey. The cords that extend between the ascended and the unascended, that are due to be severed in the latter part of your next year, still contain those beings who bring with them aspects of habit which are counterproductive to their existence as beings of the fourth dimensional reality, whereas those who remain in the third still threaten their every footfall with choices which are being made. I speak most specifically with regard to that which you take into your bodies, that which you choose to imbibe as foodstuffs and seeming nutrition for your physical forms. Many of you will have been introduced to your eating patterns at the earliest times of your childhood. In these moments, you were fed and exercised little choice over those nutritional aspects of your sustenance that were imposed upon you by parents or carers. As a result, you have developed a taste for the flesh of other beings, beings whose sentience is not only valued by themselves in their form as incarnate beings, but also by the Creator, whose design for them has been that they will also extend the parameters of consciousness and push back the boundaries of learning in alternative ways from those which you experience yourselves, within their own world, which is to say, that which is a subset of Gaia and all which she may offer, for there exist within and within her many beings in many forms, only some of which you are able to perceive. Each one of these life forms has an entitlement, a right, and with that entitlement will also come desire, will come need to progress upon their own individual ascension pathway, to make their contribution to the great oneness. They are as valued and as valuable as any human life form. But within their world, their choice is regulated by that which is within their nature, within their expectation, within the temperament which has been the design of their template, which is to say, they themselves are the ego mask, which causes them to look outward and view what they see around them with a perspective relevant to their form. And thus, for many of them, one species preying upon another is an aspect of their being and their choice, which they voluntarily undertake. Their physicality allows for this method and approach to living, but also to dying. The same may not be said for humans. The human form is contrary to some views espoused by those who consider themselves to be individuals of science, not designed to kill, not designed to eat foodstuffs made up of the flesh of other beings. A more tolerant pathway was intended, a more compassionate, caring, gentle way of life, without harm, was anticipated. Thus, the human physiology is not created to tear, to rend flesh, or even to absorb properly such when it is taken into the body. You may ask, then by what manner has it come about that so many of you have undertaken a carnivorous, flesh-eating pathway? And it is simply through observation of that which goes on around you within your world, which seems or seemed at one time to present to you an easy alternative to developing a full relationship with Gaia, who, by the bounty of the nutrients that are possessed within her being, may provide adequate substance for all. Instead, you have elected to pursue a pathway involving, at this point in your linear thinking, the wholesale slaughter of considerable numbers of those beings who should otherwise be allowed to live their own unique and full experiences of life. Such is the case that dependence upon this way of living, or from another perspective, this way of dying, such is the dependence that now the majority of the population exists through the bounties of the lives of others. Not only is this contrary to intentions, the desire and will of the Creator, it is also harmful. Harmful to the human form. Harmful from the perspective of keeping your physical integrity intact. But harmful from a far deeper, more spiritual perspective. For whilst any individual continues in this manner, they stop themselves from integrating into their learning and their consciousness the acceptance, acknowledgement, and respect which is due to all other beings. We have, over time, come to accept that this pathway is trodden by so many that it may not be erred from, at least within some stages of living and existence. But it is the case that those who are old souls must eschew the pursuit of imbibing of the life force of others. Not only when you do so do you integrate into your own being a vibration so impure based upon raw fear, but you also fail to acknowledge the association of all things in the great oneness, and thus cause a separation which may be thereafter unassailable. It is of this specific matter that I wish to speak. The processes which you have now adopted to create that which you merely regard as food animals has perpetuated itself for a considerable period of time and grows on an exponential basis. At one time, in spite of these choices, there were opportunities for those beings which you wrongfully regard as lesser to experience lifetimes wherein they might still gain value and experience from the little lives which they led. But now, your methods of production, in almost all cases, guarantee premature termination of life in a way utterly unconducive with what should be the process of their life and death. So many souls are affected. So many lives are unthinkingly, unnecessarily, and cruelly taken, that when they transition through the etheric, many of these souls now are becoming markedly reluctant to commit themselves simply to returning again, for they know that they will merely find themselves the subject of those terrors which have caused them so much difficulty, grief and hardship in their previous lifetime. For many, this cycle has perpetuated for hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes in rapid succession, simply because their lives are curtailed prematurely. There is not enough value or respite from that which they must seemingly go through before they are once again the objects of your unfortunate practices. So many souls are unwilling to return. There is a danger for you of crisis. Already, you perhaps fail to understand that many of those species who, as the result of human intervention, have been driven to the point of extinction, have chosen, with deliberation and consideration, not to return simply because of the threat posed to their lives by humankind. The extinction of all life, not of human form, is a possibility. the extinction of those beings you regard as your food choices is a possibility. Were this to occur, the interface available between humankind and other beings would cease. The implication of this is unthinkable. There would at this point be little value in the human species continuing its presence on the planet, simply as a result of the dearth of learning opportunity to be presented. A few of you seem to comprehend or acknowledge the significance of the interface between different species, of how consciousness may not be extended simply as a result of one like kind of being interfacing with another, beyond those experiences in a relatively limited number of lifetimes. Much is learnt from other species on a relative basis by observation and interaction. In this case, kindness, compassion, humility, humanity itself may be understood and practiced. The ability to love without question and without measure, the ability to extend an appreciation of consciousness to all it is, exists only because of the variety of species which do exist. Yet your actions deny anything beyond a need to control that which is around you, and to be masters of all. Yet this is not only destructive, it is disruptive of all that is. It would be our fondest desire and wish, not for ourselves, but for you, that you will recognize the folly of your engagement with other species in this hurtful manner. It would be our recommendation to all of those who seek to make significant progression upon their ascension pathway that they refrain from indulgence in practices with regard to their physical intake that involve the taking of lives of these other sentient beings. Many of you would feel yourselves exonerated through the abstention of eating red meats. Yet, those of you who indulge in imbibing the flesh of other creatures, fowl, and fish are equally culpable and equally responsible for the harms which may come to your planet as a whole. Your extension of a doctrine of consciousness, your ability to perceive high levels of sentience in some beings and not others, is merely a mistake upon your part. Sentience, whilst being a feature relative to the experiences which may be afforded to any particular individual being, is in itself a fixed. Something is sentient or it is not. And if it is sentient, it is what it is. Granted, the broader the range of sentience, of sentient experience which may be afforded and gleaned, the greater the extent of the development of the individual, and the more opportunity that exists to expand their consciousness. However, the valuing of life, the ability to continue in perpetuity that which has begun and been begun when that individual first set foot upon its ascension pathway, is equally valued by all. Thus, we ask, we beseech you, we advise, we counsel. Consider that which it is that you do. Do not allow yourself to be regulated by what has gone before. Do not allow your previous habit to dictate the choices that you make on an ongoing basis. If you value the opportunity of your incarnate existence, if you seek to progress upon your ascension pathway and would have available to you, not merely in this lifetime but in those to come, the opportunity to make your footfalls and your progression, arrest your meat-eating habits. Do not touch the flesh of other beings of the earth. Do not, as a result of your action or inaction, cause there to be harm done to any other living thing. When you honor all that is around you, when you cherish life itself, you will be fulfilling the expectations of your form, and great things will come to you. Do not dismiss these words. Do not take them lightly. Do not assume our calm demeanour does not mask deep concern. A greater imperative and importance to this subject matter than any you will have encountered, perhaps in your lifetime. The very future of human existence depends upon those choices which you make now, for your own highest good, and most certainly for the highest good of all. And choose wisely. I am Archangel Michael, and so it is.